Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another post-match reaction here on the Italian Football Podcast. My name's Nima Tavallaey, and I will be reacting to Inter's defeat to Liverpool at home at the San Siro, as well as Atalanta's impressive comeback win against Chelsea at the New Balance Arena. I'm going to start with and focus mainly on the Inter game, which saw Inter's 8, if I counted correctly, rather. So don't quote me on this. I'm not Opta. If I counted correctly, the 18-match run without a defeat at home in the Champions League for Inter came to a screeching halt. 15 wins and 3 draws. The last defeat came in 2022 against Bayern Munich at the San Siro. Since then, 18 matches, like I said, 15 wins, 3 draws, and until Liverpool won tonight after a penalty, which we're going to get into, and now puts Inter's chances of qualifying in the top 8 into real jeopardy. Whilst on the flip side, Atalanta now are on 13 points with 2 matches, one more home game against Athletic Bilbao, and one against Belgium, Royal St. Galoise. Again, forgive me for my pronunciations. If they manage to get minimum 3 points, they should be able to pull it through. And if they get 4 points, they're certain to go finish in the top 8, which is a fantastic achievement by Palladino and Atalanta. Inter, on the other hand, have Dortmund away and Arsenal at home, which is by no mean feat in easy. By no stretch of the imagination, an easy feat for Inter, given what we saw tonight, because this was again another big match defeat for Cristian Chivu, the 5th one in a row, and this 3 in the Serie A, 2 in the Champions League. Atletico Madrid and Liverpool to join Juventus, Napoli, and Milan. This was a poor performance by Inter. In my opinion, this was the worst performance out of those 5 by Inter. Chivu got it wrong from the offset. Chivu got the starting 11 wrong, starting Acerbi, starting Mkhitaryan. Of course, he can't. It was bad luck that Çalhanoğlu got injured, and of course Acerbi as well. And they had to come off, and of course his game plan was hampered by the fact that 2 out of the 3 substitution windows were used in the first half. Obviously, those injuries coming apart, he didn't want to make changes in the half at the interval, which don't count towards those windows, which of course you can understand. But the fact of the matter remains that given what happened and given his decisions, and the fact that he waited until the 83rd minute to bring on Sucic, to bring on Boni, and not play Pio Esposito at all, and took off Di Marco and brought off Augusto, which you can understand, I suppose, is a tactical decision. But to me, he got it wrong, because Mkhitaryan showed again that going forward, he has nothing to offer anymore at this level. Misplacing simple passes in important situations, not offering anything in the final third. Did the hard work and was positioned well defensively, but this was not a very good Liverpool side. And we're going to get to the penalty as well, which towards the end. But if we're perfectly honest, Liverpool didn't really create that much. The disallowed goal was correct, of course. It came off the hand of a Liverpool player whose name eludes me right now, after Van Dijk headed down, and Konate scored the goal. It was correct to call that off. Not much you can do, and that's why the reason I think I don't understand why it took so long, because to me it was rather conclusive images, but it is what it is. However, Inter didn't create that much either, which, I mean, they had a header by Lautaro Martinez after a great cross by Bastoni, fantastic save by Alisson Becker, but other than that, they didn't really create that much, and neither did Liverpool. If we're perfectly honest, they had that chance that Jan Sommer played into the feet of Alexander Isak, who was desperate to score, and obviously poor finish. But overall, it was not. Excuse me, it was not a very good game. And this is a Liverpool that was there for the taking. Obviously, after everything that's happened with Mo Salah, you could tell that Liverpool had a point to prove. They were, they played for the shirt, and they wanted to be united, and this win means a lot to them. Of course, they've been good in the Champions League. For Inter, however, as I said, 5th consecutive big match loss. This is the worst out of the lot of them, because against Juve, against Napoli, against Milan, even against Atletico Madrid, they created something. Here they created virtually nothing. And it just goes to show that Cristian Chivu is not ready at this level. The lack of experience as a coach against the big sides is exposed. He is tactically exposed in the big matches. You do not lose 5 matches in a row due to bad luck. You can't claim that once, twice, but 5 times. No, coaching experience matters. Otherwise, they wouldn't be paying people the big bucks. And this is again an Inter that are naively exposed. The goal didn't come from that, of course, but it was that came from a soft penalty, but it's still a penalty in the sense that Bastoni's stupid to be pulling his shirt. And the reason the VAR intervenes is because the referee probably didn't see it, as Alessandro Arbizzani, our listener and referee expert who trains referees in the AFC, in the Asian Confederation, explained to me on Twitter and to everyone else, is that if the referee doesn't see it, then of course the VAR, then it falls under clear and obvious error. And this is again why I think this protocol is flawed, because that shirt pull does not warrant a foul. We see far more than that in every single set piece. But having said that, it's stupid. It's a really, really stupid move by Bastoni. He there's no need to do that. He's bigger than his opponent. He doesn't need to do it. It's not a dangerous situation. It's a stupid decision by him in a game where he was otherwise really good. But having said that, the referee should also be able to see there's only going to be one outcome when the VAR calls him. But at the same time, if you're going to give that every single game, there has to be consistency, because if the referee sees that live, he's never going to give it. So why does he give it when he looks at freeze frames it? I mean, that's the issue I have with this situation, is that that's never given when he sees it live. And the only reason the VAR can intervene there is because he didn't see it, and then it falls under the clear and obvious error. But even on the replay, you see that he makes the most of it. I don't want to call it a dive, but he makes the most of it. So if you're not going to give a call like that, which the shirt pulls, which we see far worse, every single corner, every single set piece and free kick, then why do you give it then? But be that as it may, I don't think it's an outrage. I don't think it's a scandal or anything like that. I think it's a soft penalty, but it's still a penalty. It's a shirt pull, and Bastoni should know better. He has more experience, and should do better. But I don't think it's a huge outrage scandal by him either. He's adapted. He plays like every defender does in that situation. I've seen the other situation with a handball on Van Dijk, but is the ball out by his side? Yes, but is it enough out by his side to warrant a penalty? No. But the referee saw it. The VAR in that situation probably asked him what he saw, and he said what he saw, and therefore he can't intervene. So I don't see it's a refereeing scandal by any stretch of the imagination. So I don't want to blame this loss on the referee or the VAR or anything like that. The protocol is what it is. It's always going to be what it is until they change it, which I hope comes soon. But regardless, Inter were poor. This was a poor performance by Inter, and that doesn't change that. Cristian Chivu got it wrong with his selection. As I said, he was unlucky that he had to use 2 of his 3 substitution slots due to injuries, but he waited too long to make substitutions. Sucic, Esposito, perhaps, or Boni should have come on earlier, and they didn't, and that it cost Inter. And 5th consecutive big match lost, which is just, you don't win trophies like that. You don't win the Serie A when you lose against all your direct rivals. And Milan and Napoli are Inter's direct rivals, and so are Juventus, if we're talking from a prestige point of view, even though Juventus are very, very poor and won't be involved in the Scudetto race. But they're a big match, and it's 0-5. And the numbers speak as loudly as they can. And I think it's clear at this point that, he's not going to be sacked by Christmas, which is what I predicted in the beginning of the season. Because I expected him to drop more points against the smaller teams. He hasn't done that, but he's 0-5 in all big matches, and with a team that is arguably better than the one Inter had last season and reached the Champions League final. So he should never have been appointed. That's still my position, and he hasn't done anything to disprove of that. Because in the big games, Inter continuously come up short. And it's all down to him because he's tactically not good enough. He falls into traps. You can blame Jan Sommer, you can blame Bastoni, you can blame the grass. The grass was too wet, the pitch was too dry, the wind was too strong. Blame whoever you want. This doesn't happen under experienced coaches. It's as simple as that. Inter don't go 0-5 across the Serie A and the Champions League under both Conte and Inzaghi. Under Conte, they failed in the Champions League but won the league. Under Inzaghi, they reached 2 Champions League finals and won the league once. So and I would say that arguably this is the best squad. This is a squad that was better than anything Inzaghi had, and probably second best if you on paper can compared to the Conte squad that he had the second year was better than this one on paper. You can argue, but not by much. You can say this is better than that one. But regardless, the results are clear. He's not going to win the league based on this. He's not going to win the Champions League based on this. Maybe he can save the season by winning the Coppa Italia and do an Inzaghi and win the Coppa Italia and the Supercoppa. But Inzaghi won big matches even in those, because he was up against Milan, it was up against Juve. So far 0-5 for Chivu. And it's not Chivu's fault. As I explained in my first video, in that video, if you look at the entire episode, I don't blame Chivu. I blame the people who appointed him. Beppe Marotta fumbled Inzaghi's departure. And by the time he woke up, all the best coaches were taken, i.e. Max Allegri. And they had to punt because Fabregas didn't want to leave. And now they're stuck with Chivu, and they have to appoint Chivu, and Chivu stepped up and saved Inter in that situation, which he should be commended for. But the fact of the matter remains, 0-5 in big matches across now the Champions League as well as the Serie A. That's a new for Inter, and that's a problem. That is a problem and all the wins against Como and I don't know these smaller teams that Inter have played does not change that fact. And that is why I don't think they will win any big trophies this season. And that's on Marotta. That's not on Chivu. It's not Chivu's fault they didn't have the experience. So we'll see what happens. It's clear that they're not, that they're going to stick with him until the end of the season, which I think, you can argue it both ways. I don't really have a feeling about it either way, despite what some might think. I think he should never have been appointed. And looking at the coaches available, there aren't any big name coaches available unless Mourinho and Marotta don't seem to get along. Mancini's not available. From what he's not going to leave that job. So there's not really any big names out there. So Inter have to suck it up and stick it out with Chivu. That's the only right decision to do. And again, another poor decision by Marotta and co. is that they didn't sign a defender in the summer. They decided to continue with the Acerbi thing. Well, Acerbi, when he's played, he's been good, but the man's pushing 40 and his body is deteriorating, and now he's injured again. So, when you get these key decisions wrong, like with Sommer, although he's been, he doesn't induce much confidence. He was okay tonight. When you get the big decisions wrong, the coaching decision, the defense, the goalkeeper, I'm sorry, but the competition out there is too skilled. They don't make mistakes, this many mistakes in this many areas. And that's why Inter are going to end with 0 trophies big trophies at least. They can win a Coppa Italia and Supercoppa and maybe salvage the season and win the silver star. That's what you get when you win the Coppa Italia. Every 10 Coppa Italias you win. But I mean, if that's the ambition and finish in the top 4, so be it. That's great. But the fact of the matter is, this will be another Scudetto thrown away. For all of you who love to talk about Scudetti thrown away. And in the Champions League, Inter will probably most likely have to go through the playoff round. So, unless they pull off a miracle against Arsenal, who arguably are the best team in Europe right now. So I don't see that happening. So, maybe I'm wrong. I hope I am wrong, because that would mean that Inter gets something out of the game against Arsenal. But it's not looking good. Now, however, as I alluded to, moving on to Atalanta, who were inspired, who gave an inspired comeback performance against Chelsea at home, 1-0 down at halftime after a goal from Joao Pedro, who was after VAR checked that and correctly allowed it. Then it was the Charles De Ketelaere show. Wonderful drive in the second half, wonderful drive and assist for Scamacca, who's looking really good, and then a wonderful, fantastic winner by Charles De Ketelaere in this, towards the end of the game to win it. And now Atalanta are on 13 points, as I alluded to, and now they're in the driving seat to finish in the top 8. A win against the Belgian side RSG, 16 points. A draw at home to Athletic Bilbao, 17 points. To Bob's your uncle, sorted. So huge congrats to Raffaele Palladino and Atalanta. I really hope they manage to do it. Inter, even if they beat Borussia Dortmund away on the last match day, that's 15 points. They have to get a draw against Arsenal to at least be with a decent shot to finish in the top 8, which is what they have to root for. But congratulations, Atalanta. It's very impressive to come back from a goal behind against Chelsea, who Enzo Maresca has done an excellent job there, I think. And you got to give it to Atalanta. It's really impressive that they put themselves in such a good position, and hopefully they can pull it off. I was really impressed by De Ketelaere. For me, he was the man of the match. And I think now things are all coming together under Atalanta, under Palladino, who seems to have won the squad back over. There's no crisis anymore. Things are much more calmer. So credit where credit is due to Palladino for managing. For tactically, he's not really made many changes to compare to Juric or Gasperini. Lest we forget that this is why they appointed both Juric and Palladino tactically. But what he has managed to do is to win the squad over and create unity, something that Juric was unable to do, and also, in my opinion, was not given the chance to do after the shit show we saw in the summer with Lookman. Although he didn't help himself either. Right, that's all we had. That's all we had time for. That's everything I had to discuss in this post-match reaction pod. Tomorrow, Carlo will be discussing Napoli, Benfica, and Juventus Paphos. And then on Thursday, we have the former Udinese, Leicester City, Swiss, and Napoli midfielder, now Udinese technical director, sporting director Gökhan Inler. Our exclusive interview with him for 45 minutes, around 45 minutes, will be out on Thursday. So make sure to check that out. So until next time, take care of yourself. And also, before I say that, for all patrons, the Q&A pod is also out for YouTube members and patrons, patreon.com/TIFP. So make sure to check that out. So until next time, take care of yourselves and each other. Ciao, ciao.